Card series downgrades are here once again, and our bigger Thanos redesign that was teased earlier this year is landing as well. Let's go ahead and dive on into everything this patch has for us today. As far as series downgrades go, we have 5 cards downgrading from 4 to 3. Howard the Duck, Silver Samurai, Mirage, Echo, and Martyr will now all be available in your collector's reserves if they've been missing from your collection. Also keep in mind that if you were previously Series 3 complete, that claim 1 free Series 3 card per month section should open back up in your shop if you were missing any of these cards, so be sure to grab one of them through that method before you tear into your reserves for the rest. We also have 7 cards downgrading from Series 5 down to 4, which means while they're not in collector's reserves just yet, they are available for 3,000 collector's tokens now as opposed to 6,000 like they were previously. These cards are Jean Grey, Selene, Hercules, Nebula, Silk, the Living Tribunal, and Gladiator. While obviously cards like Selene and Hercules aren't particularly playable, the other 5 of these cards all see varying degrees of play in good decks off and on throughout Snap's history, and I'm glad more people will have access to them now. As far as card changes go, Thanos is actually the only one who's being adjusted in this patch, with 5 of his Infinity Stones getting text box changes. To start with, the Mind Stone will once again be going back to drawing 2 specifically Infinity Stones out of your deck, as opposed to just generically 1 energy cards. The Soul Stone is getting completely redesigned. It will be getting a draw added back onto it with an on reveal, but it will now be ongoing. Thanos can't be discarded or destroyed. Time Stone is getting the closest thing to a strict upgrade you can have in a card game, with the cost reduction that it applies to Thanos now being permanent instead of simply for the following turn. I think this change makes a lot of sense. It's definitely a big upgrade to the stone. You can now play Time Stone out at any point in your early turns and still gain from its benefit and draw that card early on. Space Stone is getting completely redesigned. It will still be on reveal, draw a card, but then the remainder of its effect is ongoing, saying nothing can stop you from playing or moving Thanos. It's a really interesting design. It technically means that Space Stone with Thanos is a counter to one of my least favorite cards in Marvel Snap, Professor X. You can use this to get into places like Sanctum Sanctorum or a flooded location. Perhaps some type of Thanos-themed lockout deck is something people want to explore that only counter opposing effects like this, but also synergize with their own. It is also worth noting that unlike the original Space Stone design, this does not allow you to move anything itself, so while nothing can stop you from moving Thanos, you'd need another effect like Ghost Spider, Iron Fist, or Heimdall to move Thanos around the board to begin with. Lastly, Reality Stone is essentially eating a strict downgrade, and it is losing its draw effect. It's noteworthy that since Soul Stone gained a draw effect, there's still the same total amount of card drawing inside of Thanos' kit. They simply shuffled around which stones it's going to be applicable to. All in all, I really like this set of changes to Thanos. I think they likely achieve the goal that Second Dinner has of trying to make the Mad Titan better, while also making sure it's not just a generic good stuff deck in the future. The immediate thing that jumps out to me is that since Space Stone is an ongoing effect now, we have an extra ongoing stone inside of Thanos' kit, which means the Kazar / Spectrum ongoing Thanos deck is probably something worth exploring again, especially with Gilgamesh releasing in the new season today, enjoying buffs from things like Kazar and Blue Marvel. Overall, I will say it's probably a little bit disappointing that Thanos is the only change inside of this patch. I would have loved some buffs to some other underplayed cards, but I'll definitely take what we can get, and the changes we did get here I think are good. While it's not technically a card update, it is going to have gameplay impacts and how you play things out, so I wanted to call it out today as well. Secondary has changed how cards that move around the board are going to work now. Specifically, effects like Nightcrawler, Vision, Jeff, and recently released Nocturne will now all count themselves as moving to their new location before any cards on the board flipped up. previously it used to be that the order you moved things and the order you played things out for your hand all happened sequentially. So it could matter if you say move Jeff and then played a card, as opposed to playing that card and then moving Jeff. A deck that I recently posted a highlight with and had success with leverage this effect to profitability, with having Proxima get discarded whether you moved a card or didn't move a card before you did that, to kind of control where your stats are at. You no longer have that fine-tuned control. I think overall, simplifying how this works is definitely a good thing for the game long term. It makes things more intuitive, knowing that those types of effects will just happen before cards flip up, but it is a little bit sad to lose that skillful element of the game, even if it was a little bit more niche. It's also worth noting that how cards move around like this also matters with a location like New York. There were some weird niche interactions with that location in the past where, depending on who had priority, if you moved like a large card to New York, different tech cards could impact it or not. And there were weird interactions with things like ongoing effects, where if your opponent had moved a card but it hadn't been fully staged over yet, its ongoing effect was off, so it didn't have power, and it was messy. So from a simplification standpoint, that will be better overall. As always, if you enjoyed my breakdown on today's patch, be sure to snap that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you get my Gilgamesh and Thena reviews coming up here real soon.